The spaceship carrying Alan Miller and 5 other humans slowed as it approached the massive Vishari space station. Through the viewing window, Alan saw the strange structure for the first time. It looked like a giant blue crystal with dozens of sharp points reaching out in all directions. The station spun slowly, reflecting the light from the nearby twin suns. 10 minutes until docking, said the ship's computer. All passengers prepare for arrival. Alan checked his uniform one last time and made sure his translator device was working. As the youngest member of Earth's first diplomatic team to the Vishari, he felt both excited and nervous. While the others on his team were seasoned diplomats, Alan was chosen because of his special talent with languages and his deep knowledge of alien biology. "Ready for this, Miller?" asked Donna Harris, the mission leader. She was a tall woman with short gray hair who had worked in space diplomacy for 20 years. "As ready as I'll ever be," Alan replied with a small smile. "I've been studying their language for months, but I'm curious to see if my pronunciation is correct. Their clicking sounds are hard to make with a human mouth." Donna nodded. "Just remember why we're here. Learn everything you can about them, but don't get too friendly. The Vishari may look fascinating, but they're still an unknown species with technology far more advanced than ours." The ship docked with a gentle bump. When the doors opened, Alan took his first breath of Vishari air. It smelled sweet, like honey mixed with something he couldn't identify. A group of 6 Vishari waited for them. They stood upright on 4 lower limbs while their 2 upper arms were folded in what Alan recognized as a formal greeting position. Their bodies were covered in shiny blue and green plates that looked like armor, but were actually part of their bodies. Their heads had large compound eyes that reminded Alan of a dragonfly's, and small moving parts around what must be their mouths. The tallest Vishari stepped forward. "Welcome to Hive Station 1, it said through a translator device. "I am Chief Diplomat Zenter. We are pleased to host the first human delegation to Vishari space." One by one, the humans introduced themselves. When it was Alan's turn, he decided to try speaking in the Vishari language. He made a series of clicks and soft whistling sounds, saying, "I am honored to meet you and thank you for welcoming us to your home." The Vishari became very still. Then their upper limbs began to move in a wave-like pattern that Alan recognized from his studies as a sign of surprise or approval. "Your pronunciation is excellent for one without mandibles," Zenter replied in his own language before switching back to English. "You will be a valuable bridge between our peoples." The humans were given a tour of the parts of the station designed to accommodate them. Their living quarters had been specially built with human needs in mind. There were proper beds instead of the hanging sleep pods the Vishari used, and the air had been adjusted to Earth-like conditions. During the next few weeks, Alan threw himself into his work, while the other humans focused on trade agreements and military boundaries. Alan spent his time learning about Vishari culture. He discovered they were a hive species with millions of workers connected mentally to their queen. But unlike Earth insects, each Vishari was intelligent and could think independently while still feeling the queen's influence. Alan learned that Queen Zilvex ruled all Vishari across 12 star systems. No human had seen her yet. She lived on the Vishari home planet, not on the space station. One day, Alan was studying in the station's knowledge center when Zenter approached him. "Alan Miller, your dedication to understanding our ways has been noticed," Zenter said formally. "Queen Zilvex will arrive at this station tomorrow for inspection. She has requested your presence at her welcoming ceremony." Alan nearly dropped his datapad. "The Queen wants to meet me? Why?" "She is curious about the human who speaks our language and shows such interest in our history." "This is a great honor. No other human has been invited." When Alan told Donna about the invitation, she looked worried. "This could be very good or very bad for our mission," she said. "The Queen might be testing us, or she might genuinely be interested in learning more about humans. Either way, be careful what you say to her. Remember that everything you tell her will be shared with every Vishari through their hive connection." The next day, Alan stood nervously with the Vishari officials in the main docking bay. He wore his best uniform and had practiced proper Vishari greeting customs all morning. The Queen's ship was unlike any other vessel Alan had seen. It was shaped like a perfect sphere and seemed to be made of a single piece of shimmering material that changed colors as it moved. When the ship docked, there was complete silence in the bay. A door appeared in the side of the sphere, though Alan couldn't see any seams or hinges. A soft blue light spilled out from inside. First came the royal guards, each nearly 7 feet tall with deep purple plating instead of the usual blue or green. They moved with perfect coordination, forming 2 lines from the ship's door. Then Queen Zilvex appeared. Alan had seen images of her, but they didn't capture her presence. She was larger than other Vishari, with a brilliant sapphire carapace that seemed to glow from within. Where other Vishari had 2 compound eyes, she had 5, arranged in a pattern that allowed her to see in all directions. A delicate crown-like structure grew naturally from her head, made of the same material as her body, but thinner and more elaborate. All the Vishari in the room lowered themselves in a deep bow. Alan quickly did the same. The queen moved forward with a grace that seemed impossible for her size. She stopped in front of the line of officials, who each gave formal greetings. Finally, she reached Alan. The only human in the welcome party, Alan kept his eyes down as was proper and spoke carefully in the Vishari language. This humble human welcomes the great Queen Zilvex and is honored beyond words by your presence. There was a long silence. Then, to his shock, the queen responded in perfect English. Raise your eyes, Alan Miller of Earth. I wish to see the face of the human who has shown such respect for my people's ways. Alan looked up and found all 5 of her compound eyes focused on him. Each was like a kaleidoscope of blue and purple facets. You are not what I expected, the queen said. Her voice through the translator had an unusual musical quality. You study our language, our history, our biology, not just to gain advantage in negotiations, but from genuine curiosity. This is ... refreshing. Your Majesty honors me, Alan replied, unsure what else to say. Walk with me, she commanded. I wish to hear about Earth from someone who sees beyond political concerns. As Alan walked beside the Vishari queen, with her guards following at a respectful distance, he could feel the stares of both humans and Vishari throughout the station. No one had expected this level of interest from the queen. For hours they talked. She asked about Earth's oceans, about human families, about how humans could bear to be mentally separate from each other. Alan answered as best he could, sometimes making the queen's mandibles twitch in what he hoped was amusement. At the end of the day, as they returned to the main hall where other officials waited, the queen said something that would change Alan's life forever. You will come to the homeworld, she said. It wasn't a question. I wish to continue our conversations there, where I can show you the true beauty of Vishari civilization. As Alan bowed again, he caught sight of Donna's worried face among the human delegation. He knew this invitation went far beyond his mission parameters. But as he looked at the magnificent alien queen, he also knew he couldn't refuse this chance to learn more about her fascinating species. It would be my greatest honor, Your Majesty, he said, sealing his fate. The journey to the Vishari homeworld took 3 Earth days. Alan spent most of that time looking out the window of the Queen's ship. Space looked different here, with strange, colorful clouds of gas that Earth scientists had never seen before. Queen Zilvex gave Alan private quarters near her own chambers. The room was a mix of Vishari design with human comforts. The walls glowed with a soft blue light that changed to match Alan's sleep cycle. We have studied human biology, explained Trenville, a female Vishari assigned to help Alan. The Queen wanted your stay to be comfortable. Alan had many questions for Trenville. How many Vishari live on the homeworld? Nearly 1 billion, she replied. But we do not think of numbers as you do. Each Vishari is part of the whole, connected to the Queen and to each other. Like a hive mind? Alan asked. Trenville's mandibles clicked in what Alan had learned was their version of a smile. Similar, but not exactly. We are individuals, but we share thoughts and feelings when needed. The Queen's connection to us is strongest. She feels what we feel. Alan wondered what it would be like to never be truly alone in your own mind. It seemed both wonderful and frightening. The ship entered the atmosphere of the Vishari planet on the morning of the fourth day. Alan watched as they flew over vast cities made of the same crystal-like material as the space station. The buildings grew from the ground in natural patterns, like giant blue and purple flowers reaching toward the twin suns. "It's beautiful," Alan said softly. "The Queen will be pleased you think so," said Trinville. The ship landed on a platform connected to the largest structure Alan had ever seen. It was a massive crystal palace that seemed to float above the ground. Light bounced through it, creating rainbows everywhere. A group of royal guards met them at the landing area. They led Alan through hallways that opened and closed behind them, like living things. Other Vishari stopped and stared as he passed. Alan realized he was probably the first human many of them had ever seen. The throne room was at the heart of the palace. It was a huge round space with a high ceiling that showed the sky above. In the center was not a throne as Alan expected, but a pool of shimmering liquid that gave off a soft glow. Queen Zilvex stood beside the pool. She looked even more impressive here than on the space station. The light from the pool reflected off her blue carapace, making her shine like a jewel. "Alan Miller," she said, her voice carried by the perfect acoustics of the room. "Welcome to Vassiler, heart of the Vishari Empire." Alan bowed deeply. "Thank you for inviting me, Your Majesty. Your world is more beautiful than I imagined." The Queen made a gesture, and all other Vishari left the room. Alan felt nervous being alone with her. "Do not fear," she said, seeming to sense his feelings. "I simply wish to speak without the formality required when others are present." She led him to the edge of the pool. "This is the memory pool, where the collected knowledge and history of our species is stored. It is our most sacred place." Alan looked at the liquid with new respect. "Your entire history is in there?" "Not just history. Thoughts, feelings, dreams. When a Vishari dies, their mind is preserved here. In this way, no knowledge is ever truly lost." Alan was amazed. "On Earth, we lose so much when someone dies. Their memories, their wisdom, everything they knew that they didn't write down or tell someone else." The Queen's eyes focused on him with intensity. "That is why I find humans so fascinating. You live with such separation, such loss, yet you create beautiful things. Your art, your music, your stories. They have a passion our species sometimes lacks." Over the next several weeks, Alan spent hours each day with the Queen. She showed him parts of the palace no other human had seen. They talked about the differences between their species and their cultures. Each evening, Alan recorded his observations in his datapad to send back to Earth. Donna Harris sent messages reminding him to focus on his diplomatic mission, but Alan found himself caring less about that and more about understanding the Vishari way of life. One day, the Queen took him to a garden filled with strange plants that moved and changed colors as they approached. "These plants respond to our thoughts," she explained. "They were the first life forms on our planet to develop a hive connection, long before the Vishari evolved." She reached out and touched a tall blue flower. It immediately turned purple and bent toward her. "Would you like to try?" she asked Alan. Alan hesitated. "I don't have the hive connection. I don't think it will work for me." "Try," she encouraged. Alan reached out slowly and touched a small green plant. To his surprise, it turned a soft gold color and wrapped a thin tendril around his finger. Like a gentle handshake, the Queen made a sound Alan had never heard before. It took him a moment to realize she was laughing. "It likes you," she said. "This is unusual. The plants normally only respond to Vishari minds." Alan smiled, feeling oddly proud. "Maybe humans and Vishari aren't as different as we think." The Queen looked at him thoughtfully. "Perhaps not." That evening, a message from Earth arrived for Alan. It was marked urgent. When he opened it, he saw it was from the head of the Earth Space Agency. "Lieutenant Miller," it read, "your close contact with the Vishari Queen has created concern among Earth leadership. While we value the diplomatic relationship you've established, there are worries about security. Some officials believe you may be compromised by spending so much time with the Queen. You are ordered to return to the space station within 3 days for debriefing. Alan stared at the message for a long time. The thought of leaving the Vishari world, of not seeing the Queen every day, made him feel unexpectedly sad. The next morning, he went to tell the Queen about the message. He found her in a room he hadn't seen before. It was smaller than the throne room, with walls that seemed to be made of living crystal that pulsed with light. "You are troubled," she said before he could speak. "Earth has ordered me to return to the space station," he explained. "They're worried about me spending so much time with you." The Queen was silent for a moment. "Do they fear I will harm you?" "No," Alan said quickly. "They worry I might share too much information with you, or that I might become too attached to your world, and have you?" she asked. "Become attached?" Alan looked around at the beautiful crystal walls, thought about all he had learned, and answered honestly, "Yes, I have." The Queen moved closer to him. Up close, Alan could see the intricate patterns in her compound eyes, each facet reflecting his own image back to him. "There is something I wish to show you before you leave," she said. "Something no human has ever seen." She led him to a wall that opened at her approach. Beyond was a small chamber containing a single crystal that glowed with an inner light. "This is a mind crystal," she explained. "Vishari royalty used them to share thoughts directly without words. It would allow you to experience how we see the world, how we connect to each other." Alan looked at the crystal with wonder and a little fear. "Is it safe for humans?" "I believe so," she said. "But it has never been tried. The choice is yours." Alan knew he should say no. This went far beyond his mission. But the chance to truly understand the Vishari, to experience their connection, how could he refuse? "I'll try it," he said. The Queen took the crystal and held it between them. "Place your hand on it with mine." Alan reached out and put his hand on the crystal, his fingers almost touching the Queen's foreclaw. The crystal grew warmer and brighter. Suddenly, Alan's mind expanded. He felt the Queen's presence, not as words but as feelings, images, sensations. He saw Earth through her eyes, beautiful but chaotic. He felt her loneliness as a ruler separated from her people by her position. Even while connected to them mentally, most surprisingly, he felt her fascination with him, her joy in their conversations, her sadness at his coming departure. When the connection ended, Alan stepped back, overwhelmed. The Queen watched him carefully. "Now you understand," she said softly. Alan nodded, unable to speak for a moment. Finally, he found his voice. "I have to go back, at least for now. But I'll try to return. You will always be welcome here, Alan." "Miller," said the Queen, and for the first time she used his first name alone, always. Alan returned to the space station with mixed feelings. He missed the beauty of the Vishari homeworld and his daily talks with Queen Zilvex. But he also felt strange after using the mind crystal. Sometimes he thought he could still feel the Queen's presence in his mind, like a soft whisper at the edge of his thoughts. Donna Harris was waiting when his shuttle docked at the station. Her face looked serious. "Welcome back, Miller," she said. "We need to talk right away." She led him to a small meeting room where 2 other people waited. One was Jack Peters, the head of security for the human delegation. The other was Dr. Olivia Ward, a scientist who studied alien biology. "Tell us everything that happened on the Vishari planet," Donna said once they were all seated. Alan described what he had learned about Vishari culture, their cities and their technology. He mentioned the memory pool and the gardens with plants that responded to thoughts. But he didn't tell them about the mind crystal. Something told him to keep that private. "Did the Queen ask you questions about Earth defenses or technology?" Jack asked with a frown. "No," Alan said. "She was more interested in our culture, art, music, literature. She wanted to understand how humans think and feel." Dr. Ward leaned forward. "Did you notice any changes in yourself while you were there? Headaches? Strange dreams? Unusual thoughts?" Alan hesitated. "Nothing serious. Sometimes I felt like I understood their language better than I should, considering how little I've studied it." The 3 others exchanged looks. "We have concerns," Donna said finally. Earth government is worried that the Vishari might be able to influence human minds. They're a hive species with telepathic abilities. Some officials think the Queen might be trying to establish a mental connection with you. Alan tried to keep his face calm, though his heart beat faster. That's ridiculous. I'm still myself. Maybe, said Jack. But you'll need to go through some tests before we can be sure. For the next week, Dr. Ward ran tests on Alan. She scanned his brain, checked his blood, and asked him endless questions about his time with the Queen. Alan cooperated, but he felt angry about being treated like he might be a threat. One night, Alan woke suddenly from a dream about the Crystal Palace. For a moment, he thought he heard the Queen's voice calling his name. He got out of bed and went to the window that looked out into space. In the distance, he could see the faint blue glow of the Vishari planet. "What did you do to me?" he whispered. Not sure if he was asking the Queen or himself. The next day, something unexpected happened. A Vishari ship arrived at the station carrying Krythar, one of the Queen's top advisors. Alan had met him briefly on the homeworld. Krythar requested a meeting with the human delegation. Alan was allowed to attend since he knew the advisor. "I bring grave news," Krythar said once they were all gathered. "There has been an attack on the royal palace. A group of Vishari who oppose friendship with humans tried to harm the Queen. Everyone in the room became very still. Is she all right?" Alan asked, unable to hide his concern. Krythar's compound eyes turned toward him. "The Queen lives, but she is injured. The attackers used a poison that affects our nervous system. She is in a healing sleep now." "Who would do such a thing?" Donna asked. "There are some among our people who fear change," Krythar explained. "They believe contact with humans will weaken our hive connection. They call themselves the Pure Swarm." Jack leaned forward. "Is this the start of a civil war among your people?" "We hope not," said Krythar. "But the situation is dangerous. The Queen asked me to bring a message to Alan Miller before she lost consciousness." All eyes turned to Alan. "She requests your presence during her healing," Krythar said. "It is unprecedented for a non-Vishari to attend a royal healing, but these are unusual times." Donna shook her head immediately. "Out of the question. We just got him back, and we're still running tests to make sure he hasn't been compromised." "With respect," Krythar said, "the Queen believes Alan Miller may be able to help her recovery. Something happened between them that created a unique connection." Alan felt his face grow warm as everyone stared at him. "What kind of connection?" Dr. Ward asked sharply. Before Alan could answer, a pain shot through his head so intense that he gasped and grabbed the table to steady himself. In his mind, he saw the Queen lying in a crystal chamber, her blue carapace now dull and gray in places. She looked weak, and strange machines surrounded her. "Alan," he heard her voice in his mind, "I need you." The vision ended as quickly as it came. Alan looked up to find everyone watching him with concern. "She's dying," he said. "I can feel it." Dr. Ward moved to his side and checked his pulse. His heart rate is elevated, pupils dilated. "What just happened, Alan?" "I saw her," Alan said. "The Queen, she's in some kind of crystal medical chamber. She's very weak." Krythar made a clicking sound of surprise. "That is correct." "How could you know this?" "Because they use the mind crystal," said a new voice. Everyone turned to see Trinville, the female Vishari who had helped Alan on the homeworld. She had entered the room quietly. "What mind crystal?" Donna demanded. Trinville's mandibles moved nervously. "It is a sacred object that allows direct mental connection between Vishari. The Queen allowed Alan to use it, which has never been done with a human before." The room erupted with voices. Jack was shouting about security risks. Dr. Ward was asking rapid questions about the crystal's effects. Donna looked furious. "Quiet," Alan shouted finally. When everyone fell silent, he continued more calmly. "Yes, I used the crystal with the Queen. She wanted me to understand the Vishari way of experiencing the world. I didn't tell you because I knew you'd react like this." "You had no right to keep this from us," Donna said coldly. "Maybe not," Alan admitted. "But right now, that doesn't matter. The Queen is dying, and she thinks I can help." "I need to go back." "Absolutely not," said Jack. "You're compromised." For all we know, they could be controlling your mind right now. Alan looked at each of them. No one is controlling me. But there is a connection between me and the Queen. I don't fully understand it myself. All I know is that if she dies, any chance of real peace between our species probably dies with her. Dr. Ward had been quiet, thinking. Now she spoke. From a scientific perspective, this is fascinating. A human mind connecting with a hive species? The implications are enormous. This isn't about science, Alan said. It's about helping someone. Who needs me? Krythar stepped forward. If the Queen dies, those who hate humans will take control. War will follow. Is that what you want? The room fell silent again as everyone considered this. Finally, Dawn sighed. If I let you go, I'll have to answer the Earth government. They'll probably fire me. Tell them I went against orders, Alan suggested. Tell them I stole a shuttle. If you have to, you would risk everything for the Queen? Trinville asked, her voice filled with wonder. Alan thought about the mind crystal, about how he had felt the Queen's loneliness and her fascination with humans. He thought about her voice in his mind calling his name. Yes, he said simply. I would. That night, Alan boarded Krythar's ship. As they left the station behind, he looked back at the human section where lights still burned in the meeting rooms. He knew Donna would be there, trying to explain his departure to her superiors on Earth. Thank you for coming, Krythar said as they entered warp speed. The Queen has great faith in you. Alan watched the stars blur outside the window. I just hope I can help her. You already have, said Krythar. You have given her something no Vashari could, a new perspective, a human perspective. As the ship raced toward the Vashari homeworld, Alan felt the faint presence of the Queen in his mind grow stronger. She was waiting for him. And somehow, despite everything that made him feel like he was heading home, the Vashari homeworld looked different when Alan arrived this time. The beautiful crystal buildings still shone in the light of the twin suns, but there were armed guards everywhere. The normally busy streets were almost empty. Fear hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Krythar led Alan straight to the palace. They moved quickly through hallways that seemed darker than before. The attack has affected everyone, Krythar explained. When the Queen is injured, all Vashari feel pain through the hive connection. How bad is it? Alan asked. Very bad. The poison was designed to break the Queen's mental link to the hive. If that happens, she will die, and chaos will follow. They entered a part of the palace Alan had never seen before. The walls here were a deep purple color and seemed to pulse with a slow rhythm, like a heartbeat. This is the royal healing chamber, said Krythar. Only the most trusted are allowed here. The central room was large and round. In the middle was a pool similar to the memory pool Alan had seen before, but the liquid in this one was silver instead of blue. Floating in the pool was a crystal container. Inside it lay Queen Zilvex. Alan moved closer and felt his heart sink. The Queen looked terrible. Her once brilliant blue carapace was now dull and patchy. Parts of it had turned an unhealthy gray color. Her 5 compound eyes were closed, and her breathing seemed weak and irregular. Around the pool stood several Vashari wearing special white armor. They turned as Alan and Krythar entered. You brought the human here? One of them said angrily. This is sacred ground. By the Queen's own request, Krythar replied firmly. She called for him before she lost consciousness. The head healer, a female Vashari with pale green markings, approached Alan. I am Solara, Chief Royal Healer. The Queen's condition grows worse by the hour. The poison is breaking her connection to the hive. Soon it will reach her central nervous system. How can I help? Alan asked, looking at the Queen's still form. We do not know, Solara admitted, but the Queen believed you could. Before she fell into the healing sleep, she spoke your name many times. Alan moved to the edge of the pool. The silver liquid gave off a faint glow and a smell like mint. What is this? He asked. Healing waters, said Solara. They help maintain the Queen's physical body while we try to repair the damage to her mind. Alan remembered the mind crystal and how it had created a connection between him and the Queen. I think I know why she called for me. The mind crystal we used, It created a link between us that isn't part of your hive connection. Maybe that link can help her. The healers looked at each other. It is possible, Solara said slowly. The poison targets the Vishari mental network. A connection to a human mind might be unaffected. I want to try using the mind crystal again. Alan said, maybe I can reach her. Krythor looked uncertain. The crystal is kept in the Queen's private chambers. Using it without her conscious permission. She already gave me permission, Alan insisted. She showed me how it works. Please, we need to try. After some discussion, the healers agreed. Krythor went to get the crystal while Solara prepared Alan. The connection will be stronger this time, she warned. The Queen is weak, so her mind may pull at yours. You must stay focused on why you are there to help her find her way back. Krythor returned with the crystal. It was smaller than Alan remembered, about the size of his palm, and glowed with a soft blue light. What do I need to do? Alan asked. Sit here. Solara directed him to a spot beside the pool. Hold the crystal and focus your thoughts on the Queen. Remember her as she was when strong. Think of your conversations, your connection. Alan sat down and took the crystal in both hands. It felt warm and seemed to pulse in time with his heartbeat. He closed his eyes and thought about Queen Zilvex, her elegant movements, her curious questions about humans, the way her compound eyes reflected the light. At first, nothing happened. The crystal grew warmer, but Alan felt no connection. It's not working, he said, opening his eyes. The poison may be blocking the connection, Solara said. Try again. Focus harder. Alan closed his eyes again and concentrated with all his strength. He thought about the moment they had shared with the crystal before, how he had felt her mind touch his. Zilvex, he whispered, I'm here. Please hear me. Suddenly, the crystal became hot in his hands. A wave of dizziness washed over him, and he felt like he was falling. When the sensation passed, Alan found himself in a strange place. It looked like the Crystal Palace, but everything was dark and broken. The beautiful walls were cracked, and, instead of light, shadows moved everywhere. This must be how the Queen sees the palace now, Alan thought. This is her mind. He began to walk through the mental version of the palace, calling for the Queen. The farther he went, the darker it became. Sometimes he heard whispers that sounded like fragments of Vishari language. Sometimes he saw shapes moving in the shadows. After what seemed like hours, Alan reached a small room deep in the palace. Inside, curled in a corner, was a dim blue light. As he approached, the light took the shape of Queen Zilvex, but a much smaller, weaker version of her. Zilvex, Alan said softly. It's me, Alan. The small figure looked up. Alan, how are you here? The hive connection is broken. Not our connection, Alan said, kneeling beside her. The mind crystal, remember? You showed it to me before I left. The Queen's form flickered like a candle in the wind. The poison ... it's destroying everything. My link to my people. My memories. Soon there will be nothing left. Fight it, Alan urged. Your people need you. I need you. I'm too weak, she said. The pure swarm chose their poison well. It spreads through the mental network, corrupting everything it touches. Alan thought for a moment. What if you had a different network too? Use? One the poison can't reach? The Queen's dim eyes focused on him. What do you mean? Me, Alan said. My mind. Humans don't have your hive connection. The poison can't affect me. Use my mind as a safe place until the poison is gone. That's not possible, the Queen said. A human mind cannot hold a Vishari consciousness. We are too different. We're not that different, Alan insisted. You've been in my mind before. We connected. Let me help you now. Before she could argue further, Alan reached out and took her. Small glowing form in his hands. He felt a shock go through him like electricity, but not painful. The Queen's light grew brighter, and he felt her presence filling his mind. Memories that weren't his flashed before his eyes, hatching from an egg. Growing up in the royal nursery, the first time connecting to the hive mind, centuries of ruling. The Vishari, it was overwhelming, but Alan held on. Hold to me, he told her. Use my strength. In the real world, The healers watched in amazement as Alan sat completely still, the crystal glowing brightly in his hands. The queen's body in the crystal container began to change. Some of the gray patches on her carapace started to return to their normal blue color. "It's working," Solara whispered. "Somehow, the human is helping her fight the poison." Hours passed. Alan remained in his trance, his mind joined with the queen's. Inside this shared mental space, he helped her gather the pieces of herself that the poison had scattered. Together, they rebuilt her mental strength. Finally, Alan felt the queen's presence growing stronger in his mind. "The poison is weakening," she told him. "Your mind has given me shelter while my body heals." No Vishari has ever experienced anything like this, to see through human eyes, to feel with a human heart. "Is it very strange?" Alan asked. "Beautiful," she replied. "So focused, so intense. You feel everything so deeply because you are alone. In your mind. We Vishari share our emotions, which makes them gentler but less vivid." Alan felt her growing stronger by the minute. "I think you're healing." "Yes," she agreed. "Soon I can return to my body, but Alan ... What is it?" "This connection between us, it has changed both of us. When I return to my body, part of me will remain with you, and part of you will remain with me. We will never be truly separate again." Alan wasn't sure if that should worry him, but somehow it didn't. "I can live with that." In the healing chamber, the queen's body suddenly moved. Her compound eyes opened, and she took a deep breath. At the same moment, Alan gasped and dropped the crystal. It rolled across the floor, no longer glowing. The healers rushed to the queen's side as she sat up in her crystal container. "Your Majesty," Solara cried, "you have returned to us!" The queen's eyes found Alan, who was being helped to his feet by Krythar. He looked exhausted but happy. "No," said Queen Zilvex, her voice stronger than anyone expected. "I have done more than return. I have been transformed." News of the queen's recovery spread quickly across the Vishari world. The streets filled with celebrating Vishari, their bodies glowing with bright colors to show their joy. But not everyone was happy. The pure swarm, who had tried to poison the queen, went into hiding. Their leader, a high-ranking noble named Drestor, disappeared from the capital city. At the palace, Queen Zilvex called for a meeting of her royal council. Alan stood beside her throne, still weak from his mental connection with the queen, but determined to stay by her side. "The attack has failed," the queen announced to her advisors, "but it has changed things in ways the pure swarm did not expect." The council members looked at each other in confusion. "Your Majesty seems different," said one elderly advisor. "I am different," the queen agreed. "My time shared with a human mind has given me new perspective. I can still connect to the hive, but I now understand what it means to be an individual as well." This caused a stir among the council. Some looked worried, others curious. "What does this mean for our people?" Krythar asked. "It means we have an opportunity," said the queen. "For too long, we Vishari have stayed separate from other species. We feared that contact would weaken our hive connection. But I have learned that there is strength and difference in seeing the world through new eyes." She turned to Alan. "This human risked everything to save me. In doing so, he has taught me that there is more than one way to be connected." Over the next few days, Alan watched as the queen began to implement changes. She created a new position in her government, ambassador to Earth, and appointed Trinville to the role. She ordered the construction of more facilities to welcome humans who wanted to study Vishari culture, but the biggest change was in the queen herself. She spent hours each day with Alan, asking about human customs, emotions, and relationships. She seemed particularly interested in the concept of friendship. "Vishari do not have friends as humans understand them," she explained to Alan as they walked in the palace gardens. "We are all connected through the hive, so there is no need to form individual bonds." "That sounds lonely," Alan said. "It never seemed so before," the queen admitted. "But now, having experienced your mind, I understand what I was missing." As they walked, Alan noticed the plants responding not just to the queen, but to him as well. A large blue flower turned gold when he passed, just as it had during his first visit. "The plants recognize you now," the Queen said. "They sense our connection." One morning, a message arrived from Earth. Donna Harris had been removed from her position for allowing Alan to return to the Vishari world. Earth government was demanding Alan's immediate return, threatening to cut off all diplomatic relations if he did not comply. "They're afraid," Alan told the Queen after reading the message. "They don't understand what's happening here. What will you do?" She asked. Alan looked around at the crystal palace that had become more familiar to him than his quarters on the space station. "I don't want to leave, but I don't want to cause a conflict between our worlds." The Queen was quiet for a moment. "Perhaps there is another way." That evening she called for a special ceremony in the throne room. All the royal court was present, along with the remaining humans from the Earth delegation who had been invited. To the palace, the Queen sat on her crystal throne, looking more magnificent than ever. Her blue carapace had healed completely and now showed new patterns that glowed with an inner light. At her side stood Alan, dressed in a special robe made from Vishari silk that changed colors to match his mood. "Today marks a new chapter for the Vishari," the Queen announced. "For thousands of years we have lived in isolation, connected only to each other. But the universe is vast, and there are many ways to live, to think, to connect." She turned to Alan. "This human has shown me that difference need not divide us. It can make us stronger." From behind the throne, Silara appeared carrying the mind crystal on a small platform. It glowed brightly as she placed it between the Queen and Alan. "I propose a new kind of connection," the Queen continued. "Not to replace our hive mind, but to expand it. A bridge between Vishari and humans that will allow both species to grow and learn from each other." She gestured to the crystal. "This will be the first of many such bridges. Through it, select humans and Vishari can share thoughts and feelings directly, without words to confuse or mislead." The court murmured in surprise. "Nothing like this had ever been suggested before, Your Majesty," one advisor said hesitantly. "Are you certain this is wise?" "Our mental network is sacred. Because change is often frightening," the Queen replied. "But without it, we stagnate and die. I have seen inside a human mind. There is much we can learn from them, and much they can learn from us." She looked at the humans from the Earth delegation. "Return to your world. Tell your leaders what you have seen here. Tell them that the Vishari wish for true understanding between our species, not just trade agreements or military pacts." The humans nodded, clearly impressed by the Queen's words. Later that night, Alan stood on a balcony overlooking the capital city. The Queen joined him, moving silently to stand beside him. "Will you return to Earth?" she asked. "For a while," Alan said. "I need to explain what's happened, try to make them understand. There are good people there who will listen. And then," Alan smiled, "and then I'll come back here. Someone needs to be the first human ambassador to the Vishari." The Queen made a sound that Alan now recognized as laughter. "I think you have been that from the moment you arrived." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the twin moons rise over the crystal buildings. The Queen's presence in Alan's mind was a warm glow, like a fire on a cold night. Sometimes he caught glimpses of her thoughts, her hopes for her people, her worries about the changes she was making, her deep curiosity about the universe beyond their worlds. "There is something humans say to each other," Alan said after a while, "when they feel a special connection." "What is that?" the Queen asked. "They say they feel at home with that person. That being together feels right, like finding a place where you truly belong." The Queen considered this. "Vishari have no word for home in that sense. We belong to the hive, to the whole. And now?" Alan asked. The Queen turned to him, her compound eyes reflecting the moonlight. She reached out one delicate foreclaw and placed it gently on his chest, over his heart. Alan covered it with his own hand. "Now I understand," she said softly. She drew him closer, her tall form bending to bring her face near his. Alan felt her mind touch his, sharing feelings too complex for words. "Finally, my human," the alien queen whispered as she held him close. "I have found my home." In that moment, Standing between two worlds, Alan knew that everything had changed, for him, for the Queen, for both their species. Whatever happened next, they would face it together, their minds linked across the stars, and somewhere in the palace gardens, a small green plant that had once reached out to touch a human's finger began to grow in a new pattern, blue and gold. Intertwined, the first of its kind in the history of two worlds.